Hello, cinephiles, and welcome to Silver Screen Sips, a podcast where two idiots talk about movies. And today is our listeners' episode, Volume 10. Huge thank you to everyone who submitted a movie. We have so many awesome suggestions from you guys, so thank you for sending those in. Now, today we have a special guest, Hayden Myers, aka MythWest on YouTube, who posts awesome video essays, obviously revolving around tons of different films. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. I'm stoked to talk story, talk movies with you guys. So,
well, that's what we're here for. So just a reminder, there are spoilers ahead for movies and TV shows that you may not have seen yet. So just know you've been warned. Today's films that we'll be talking about is Short Term 12, Wind River, and Gladiator. Obviously, before we begin, we're going to kind of do a quick little short interview with you, Hayden, so that everyone can kind of get to know who you are and what you do. No pressure, nothing crazy. Don't worry about it.
What's your social security number?
Yeah. Nothing crazy.
In the words of Iron Man, it's 4 or whatever number he said in the movie.
We'll start with the easy one, which is just, like, what is MythWest, or who is MythWest, I guess.
Yeah, so I've been doing it about a year now. It's been in the works for a bit longer, but the name itself, it was kind of a funky name. I was like, I can go back and change it if I want. And then things really took off. I was like, I guess I can't change it. But so it's kind of a play on words. So MythWest rather than Midwest, just kind of playing on like the mythical, the storytelling, etc. And I mean, if you wanted to go really deep, then it's like Midwest is a pretty unassuming place, but then stories, the greatest stories often come from most normal, unassuming places, and that's kind of that's a storytelling trope, the hobbits and Lord of the Rings are the most unassuming heroes and many heroes like that. But yeah, so I just started getting the idea. I think the first inspiration was there was a channel, Josh Keefe, just started posting these video essays like, I don't know, 2017 or something. And they were really good. And I was like, these are some interesting ideas. These are cool videos, but I feel like I could do this, but I didn't know anything about editing or how to use software or anything like that at that point. But so it's just kind of an idea. Gradually, I just kept on like hammering my, friends and family and parents with all these random fun facts and ideas and stories. And I have a really broad range of interests from history to movies, all sorts of things. And so at some point I was like, I just need to stop like bothering them so much and then actually make something and share some ideas with people. And so kind of started writing down ideas, and then it was about The Mandalorian. And I just thought it was interesting how, okay, we really like this character, even though we virtually never see his face. Why is that? Because I just noticed growing up, like every single fight scene, off comes the helmet, off comes the mask, though, whatever they're wearing, the hero's helmet always comes off. And I was like, okay, I mean, that makes sense. We want to see their helmet, but they didn't have to do that in The Mandalorian. So floated it, trying to be really cautious about, I'm a very much a dreamer. And so I was like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 views in a week if I like that's a goal, hopefully. And then so the first week it did like 90 views, and I was like, well, okay, whatever. And then second week, I don't know, maybe. Then like a week and a half later, I in a parking lot and I checked up on the app, and there was this one comment, and I had like 4 subscribers, and this guy just commented, and he was like, I was halfway through watching this and I realized you only had 4 subscribers, and I'm blown away by the quality, and I can't believe it, and you've got some real talent here, so I'm going to share this video like crazy. I was like, oh, can I give you a hug? Like, can I find this person and hug them? And so that was very fun. But then by Saturday morning, it had like 80,000 views. And I was like, this is kind of surreal. I guess that guy actually did share that video everywhere.
Hmm.
Then by like Tuesday night, midnight, it had 1 million views. And then it's currently sitting at like 2.7 million, I think. So that was really
awesome.
wild. I just couldn't believe what it was doing. And it was like, just really happened on the first try. Okay, man. So that was a really fun jumpstart to things. It's been a bit longer between uploads than I would like, but I'm still learning how to, keep a pipeline going and keep stuff coming out. So I just never wanted to rush anything. And I even remember there being a comment where somebody on the very first video was like, yeah, it looks like this is exploding. So just pump something out there, even if it's not best. And I was like, nah, I believe in quality, and I believe if it's really good, it'll eventually get found. So I'd rather run the risk of the hype dying down rather than just pump something out and tell fans that I don't actually have a big of quality assurance. So
I mean, I 100% agree with, you want to make sure, quality over quantity at the end of the day, just because that's what the people are really there for. I mean, unless you're like an iPad kid sitting at your phone all day waiting for like the next post. It's like, there's a lot of YouTubers out there that do post every single day, but after a while,
if they're doing a channel
out.
like product reviews and things like that, I mean, that's pretty easy to put together and you have a very straightforward purpose. But for something like this, I just didn't want to become like any of the channels where, I mean, we've all seen video essays where it's really well edited, it's slick, it's got the perfect background music and everything. And at the end, you're like, wow, that was good. I don't have any idea what they just said. It's like they actually have anything to say. So that was my goal, is each video I want to have something to say, an argument to prove, or a piece of information that people didn't know. You walk away with just a changed perspective, even if just slightly. But
I mean, that's good.
And the eventual goal is, I started out trying to get into animation, specifically background design for animation and set design. Then I just kind of started realizing that story is what I love. Story is what I've always been obsessed with. I didn't really realize it. And so doing something in the film industry would be really great. Whether it's being able to tell my own stories or being part of that process somehow. I thought, YouTube is kind of the best way to start. I didn't go to Arts or AFA and get a film degree. So other than that, putting your work out there is kind of the best out people have at this point. And there's inspirations like Austin McConnell. He posted a video about how, he does tons of video essays, and he mentioned that he got approached by a massive studio, one of the main studios, and they approached him about writing for an upcoming show of theirs. And even just recently, I think it was called The Hand or something to that effect, but a horror movie that just came out on A24, and I heard that. Oh yeah, okay,
so good.
Yeah,
so good.
I heard, like Peter Jackson was giving it rave reviews, and but I heard that the directors. Were there multiple directors? I feel like there were, or
So it was two YouTubers.
Are they brothers?
They are.
Been more inspiration to just keep making stuff and see where it goes. But that's the ultimate kind of goal of things. But for the moment, I'm stoked to just on making videos and exploring storytelling. So
I mean, that's keep at it. You're doing good so far. So. I believe Isaiah also had a question he wanted to ask.
Yeah. So we call it Beth reached out. She's kind of the
networker.
She's the networker person, right? Because I give her ideas and like, hey, we should talk to this guy, and she kind of deals with that on the hey, she's the personable person. So
ooh, that's saying a lot.
Yeah, because I found your channel. I didn't see it during the Mandalorian video. I saw your can photorealism ruin animation when it was originally uploaded, And I think I even left a comment. I was like, "Oh, this guy is going places," and you liked it on the original upload.
Oh, bro, thanks. Those comments mean so much to me. I just love opening up the app and finding those, man. Oh.
Your content kind of like finds a very niche thing to talk about and kind of get to, and then you kind of really break it down. So I guess my question is, how do you go about researching a subject that you want to talk about, and or like a concept, and how do you kind of just start it off?
Yeah. Frequently, like I mentioned, I have just a really broad array of interests, and so I'll always be reading all sorts of stuff, historical books, Creativity Inc. by Pixar's founder, just all sorts of stuff like that. And then just thinking about the movies that I've seen, and then I might develop questions, and then a lot of them are really slow burn. So I think the photorealism one is just a slow burn over some years, just thinking of like, that was okay. So that was very beautiful. Yes, the Toy Story 4's animation, but something just feels odd. And so just trying to process, why does this feel odd? And then thinking about it in other contexts. So when I look at photorealistic art and I'm saying, wow, I can't draw a person's face like that. I can't draw a buffalo like that. But also this just looks like a photo. So why not just take a photo? Well, where does that lead me? What's the purpose of art? Is it to make photorealistic things? And then, so I just then thinking about all of that and trying to organize it into something digestible and actually having something to say. Sometimes it's just fascinating things that I hear, like with the Lord of the Rings one. It was like, I heard an interview with Peter Jackson where he just kind of mentioned how it was really rough working with Harvey Weinstein. I was like, I didn't know about all that. And we almost got a really awful version of Lord of the Rings. And I was like, that could make a really great video. So always thinking of ideas and writing them down on my phone. Maybe too many ideas at this point, but I started out with like 20 something, but now I have like 120 something. So I don't know if I'll ever get to all of them, but so it's kind of all over the place. Some of them are just really long in development, and it's ideas that I'm thinking about, like what's the purpose of art in animation, and should it get photorealistic? And others are just really interesting tidbits that I find, and then I kind of start piecing together, and then I might combine with another idea. And with the most recent one about A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I was just talking somewhat about how profound that moment was when they broke the fourth wall. And I was just passionate about it and explaining like this really meant something. And then I was like, you know what? That is actually a really great video idea. And I didn't realize it until I started explaining it to somebody. So that kind of comes from all over the place, but some of them are based off of what interests me, connecting that to movies, and some of them are just something that pops in my head from a recent movie I've seen. So if that's not super precise.
I have like a bunch of, well, what do you call it? I'm trying to run I run like a little side project, put it together. I don't know what you would call it, but the idea is like, it just kind of accumulates. And I kind of feel like you kind of do the same thing where you just like get random pieces of information and you're like, oh, this all fits together. And then it becomes one big project.
Part of the development, I got inspired by, so I studied storytelling a bunch with Pixar's 22 Rules of Storytelling, and then Save the Cat and all sorts of sources. And so something that I always remembered was in Pixar's 22 Rules, one of them was combine and condense. Like, don't be afraid to combine and condense ideas. Don't be precious with your ideas. Just if it works well together, then if it becomes something better, then don't be scared to combine ideas. And so that's what I find myself doing with a lot of ideas, is start out as these really scatterbrained, like bits of information here and there. And then once I combine different video ideas into one, then it really becomes something coherent, can actually make a full video.
Fair. All right. Beth, did you have another thing?
Yeah, I had one more question I wanted to ask you. So obviously, you said you got like a lot of projects kind of in your queue, I guess. So do you have any like upcoming projects that you're excited to like share with like your subscribers and everything? Or is there anything you can tell us? I don't know if you want to like keep it a secret.
Yeah, I'd hoped to have one done quite a bit sooner, and time slips away, and then I had a few problems with development. But the next one, I'm hoping to have out by the end of the week, but if not this week, then next week. But it is about Lord of the Rings, and specifically about all the unused footage,
Yes.
of which there is a lot.
A lot.
I was just finding out how much there is. It's staggering. And so, yeah, specifically, I'm making video about that, and I'm really stoked about it. So we'll have that to look forward to.
Well, those listening right now, go check his YouTube and see if he actually stuck to his schedule and see if he posted it, because this will be out next week. Yeah. This will be out on the 11th of September. So,
okay, cool.
You have 6 days.
All
right. Well, thank you for answering our questions.
Oh, thank you.
Again, they were pretty simple, but you answered them well. So now it is time to dive into our listeners' suggestions. Isaiah.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first? Because yours actually has a little message from your listener.
Yes. So this was suggested by Caleb. Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah, his note said, if you haven't discussed it already, forgive me if you have. We had not. He wanted to nominate the film Short Term 12 by Destin Daniel Cretton. I believe that's how you say that. And it stars a pre-Oscar Brie Larson and Rami Malek. And it's got John Gallagher Jr. in it as well. And it also has, this is the first thing like Keith Stanfield has ever been in, which is crazy. That
is crazy.
Yeah, which he did an amazing job in.
What year did this come out?
2013. But yeah, so that was my film. The movie, if no one's heard of it, is basically about this. I want to call it a shelter because it's basically kind of like foster care, but like for kids whose parents have issues, they're taken into like the system and DCF and kind of stuff like that. But
like
it's
CPS kind of.
Yes, it's
okay.
It's funny because it's called Short Term 12, but like the idea of where they are is not short term. And anybody else who comes from like the foster care system would know it's like, oh, this is basically like, this is more long term, depending on your situation.
I see.
So basically, it follows like 3 counselors who work at the program. Lakeith Stanfield actually is one of the kids. He plays one of the kids who are aging out when he turns when you turn 18, you consider an adult, so you can no longer be in the system.
Right.
So he plays one of the kids who's like growing out of it. Rami Malek is a new counselor coming in. He has no clue how any of this stuff works, and he's very green. Brie Larson and John Gallagher Jr. are both people who've been there forever, and they know what they're doing. But it kind of just goes through basically kind of their lives in dealing with all these kids who have dealing with all these issues, and it kind of follows more on Brie Larson's part of that she has her own issues and she's never kind of like dealt with them, and then a new girl that's coming in has kind of she kind of sees herself in her being like, because they deal with the same issues, and so she kind of starts like breaking down, being like, this is the stuff I wanted to do to my father, and now I'm going to do it to this girl's father because she's so it kind of just things that she would definitely get fired for if it was real life. Like if she worked in the place that I used to live in, she would definitely not be working there anymore. She breaks into like someone's house and beats their car with a bat and stuff because it's crazy. But yeah, the movie's not terrible. It's definitely a very low budget indie movie, that's for sure. I think for what it did, though, it's pretty good. Everybody's acting is obviously top notch because they have like a really good cast, and obviously they went on to do like amazing things.
Yeah,
I gave it a 4 out of 5 because it's a good movie. Obviously, there's still stuff that's like left to be desired due to the constraints they had, but it is still a great movie. And it's probably not going to resonate with a few people who don't understand the system and how like kids like that work. Given that, like, what do you call it? I would understand. Like if Beth watched the movie, she'd be like, "Oh, that's crazy that things like that happen," and I'd be like, "Oh, that's just normal," because and they definitely, we call it the kids that they deal with, and like my parents used to work for, like they used to be those type of counselors. That was their job. They dealt with that. So when my mom also watched the movie and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's so tame compared to what we dealt with." And just to get like, there was one story she told me about how she was taking care of when there was a house of 6 girls, right? She's taking care of them. And she wasn't the main person on shift. She was with another guy, right? So she was like the more experienced one, but she was with another guy, and he went through Desert Storm. He was an army vet. And he was more terrified of those 6 girls than he was being shot at in Desert Storm because they were just absolutely insane. And because
Oh my God.
yeah, there was one night they were all getting. She was like, oh, "Okay, we got to get everybody down to dinner. All right, go down to the dinner table." And just one of them, they go we call non-compliant, and she just lost her mind, just goes berserk, and just goes, "I ain't sitting down there. Fuck you!" All this stuff, and then she takes the giant bowl of spaghetti that's on the center of the table, flings it into the ceiling fan. It's now flying all over the walls. The whole kitchen and dining room is just covered in spaghetti.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
and she's trying to get the girl down, trying because she's just going berserk. And then she's telling the guy, the veteran, she's like, "Yo, help me out. And he's like in the corner, like petrified because of how crazy they are. And I don't know, that's just one story. We got so many. That was just one.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the things that my mom would have to deal with. And so comparison to this movie, I was like, oh wow, that kind of like this seems kind of tame.
Yeah.
Like especially the stuff I witnessed myself too. It was like that was wow. It could definitely be worse. So I felt like they could have been more, I want to say gripping. They could have definitely gone more emotional and kind of, I don't want to say traumatic, but they definitely could hit you a little harder than what they did here. But it does get the point across without being too crazy. So and obviously again the acting is just superb. So, and I'm not much of a Brie Larson fan, but she kind of nailed it. She knocked that out of the park with this one. But yeah.
I'm not a big Brie Larson fan either, but I did enjoy her acting in The Room or whatever it was. It's either The Room or it's just Room.
The Room is the Tommy Wiseau masterpiece.
Right. Yep. You are correct. Well, thanks, Caleb, and thanks, Isaiah, for your review.
Yeah, it hit some strings that it resonated.
Weren't expecting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely know what that means. Or like when someone starts. Oh, there's a scene in the movie where like some kid just like busts through the front door and just starts running across the campus to try to escape. And I was like, yeah, I remember that kind of stuff. That's when we call the cops and the helicopter started coming by.
Jeez. Yeah, I had never heard of the film.
I feel like many films try to like get gritty, get deep, get kind of traumatic, and most films kind of settle into, I don't know, cliches, or they just don't capture raw, authentic experiences like that. And in one sense, it's like, I feel like it's not that hard to get those real stories. I feel like, man, if people could just talk to that's kind of,
Isaiah.
Isaiah, really. Isaiah, you want to write a script or something? Cause you've got the experience, man. Yeah. But like,
yeah, I am a manager at a movie theater, and the amount of rap that goes down in a movie theater you would not believe, and some of the stories are so unbelievable. There is a woman that I got to write into a script at some point. There's a woman who goes around in theaters, but so we have like the butter machines, right? For some reason, no one's corrected her. She just uses the butter as like face cream. So she'll just walk, oh, I'm going to go see my movie, put her hand under the butter machine and then rub it on her face and then walk away.
It's exfoliating.
It sounds like an amazing side character in a comedy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to make like a show, like almost like The Office, and it's just like each episode is just like a new character is introduced, and in one of the episodes is just the butter lady.
There's definitely, I definitely could write a nice TV series with just the amount of stupid crap that goes down. But the experiences are definitely what gives you good writing.
For sure.
And that's what creates the interesting characters, is just the real life experiences. I feel like there's a lot of examples I'm not thinking of right now where, famous directors are like, how did you think of this amazing character? And they're like, well, actually, my uncle,
Yeah. My uncle put butter on his face.
Oh, Just a side tangent. I gotta explain this story because I people get a kick out of it. There was this one time we were at. It was me and like 4 other people at guest services. Where it's me as a manager, another manager, my GM, and like the guest services person, right? And we're all standing there, and it's really boring day. And then this dude walks in, right? He's got to be at least like 6 feet tall, wearing all black, and he's got a chain draped across his shoulder, and he's petting it. It's his pet snake, he says. And we're like, oh.
Aww.
And then we look at his feet. He's got no shoes. There's about 6 layers of saran wrap wrapped around his feet, and those are his shoes.
Okay.
Aww.
And then he just starts talking about how he's this big time like astronaut and that he's doing astrophysics and he's got like a Nobel Peace Prize and stuff. And we're like, okay. And then he eventually goes into the theater and he starts talking about, and then we were really uncomfortable because like, yo, this guy is definitely off his rocker. My GM goes to talk to him upstairs and he goes, oh yeah, no, I'm friends with M. Night Shyamalan and I'm going, this is the time when like Glass was out or something. And so he goes, oh yeah, I'm friends with M. Night Shyamalan. I'm here to support his movie. So I'm going to go see Glass. I'm like, okay.
What a friend.
Eventually we call like an hour later, we get a call over the radio because he's in a different theater, not watching Glass. And he's trying to kidnap a child.
Oh my God.
Because he claimed that that there was a murder in a theater next door, which was not open because at this time we were a 20-plex and we were down to a 12. So some of the theaters were blocked off. And he was claiming that in there was a murder and that the murderer was coming for the kid. So he had to take the kid out of the building to keep her safe. And everybody was freaking out. And we're like, what the hell? Oh, and then our security guard, she was black. And he started calling her being like, oh, you guys should know you guys are sisters because the daughter, like the child was also black. And the security guard was like, what the hell? I'm going to have to like arrest you right now. What is going on? Sorry, I just want to tell that story because it's so insane.
I did not know that the job in the theater could be so eccentric.
Oh, you got no.
It's just his theater.
Yeah, no. I've worked at 2 locations and they're both crazy.
Yeah. Anyways, on that note, we'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Shaker and Spoon, because I need a fucking drink after that. So it's a monthly subscription service that gives you bar quality recipes and ingredients designed by award-winning mixologists. Now their latest box, the Speakeasy box, features amazing cocktail recipes to honor the spirit of the Prohibition era, gin. Which I don't know if I've really had it. We actually have our very own box arriving very soon, and we can't wait to review it in our upcoming episodes. So I will have tried gin, hopefully by next episode. But if you'd like your own subscription, then you can head on over to shakerandspoon.com and use our promo code SIPS10 to get $10 off your first subscription. Again, that is promo code SIPS10, SIPS10 to get $10 off. I'm excited. I loved the Halloween box we had tried before as well. That was really good. Sometimes I miss it. But anyways, Hayden, let's talk about your film.
Well, he's the one who suggested Gladiator then. I'm very glad he did. Although it was a really tough call between that one and Whiplash because I just recently saw Whiplash and it was as good as people were saying. I never heard a negative review about it and I see why. But
so good.
Gladiator, man, that one's just a delight. I feel like I just get more into it like, as the years go by, just because rewatching it, I have to put it in the top 3 for production design that I've ever seen. It just feels like you're there in Rome, like every detail. And it's not the typical like super muted color palette. It's just browns, everything's orange and brown. Like now, I mean, people used clothing dye and Romans invented glass cups and things looked a little different than we would first imagine. But you just get so lost and so immersed in the world. And it makes sense because I then found out later that Ridley Scott used to be a production designer. It was either a production designer or an art director. And I'm having trouble remembering which one, but along those lines, he used to do that. And so that kind of makes a lot of sense for that movie and a lot of the other stuff he's done because it's just so fantastically designed and so immersive. The resurrection of the sword and sandal flick that people thought died out long before. But it's really just proof that you can't exactly kill a genre. And this is something Josh Keefe had said on his channel about Westerns. It's like, you can't really kill a genre. You can just do it the wrong way too many times. You can wear out the same types of stories over and over again. But you can't really wear out a setting or a genre.
Yeah.
So, I mean, man.
What would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I would have to give it, maybe I'm being overly generous, but basically I don't see why I can't give it a 5 stars or at least 4.5. The narrative is just so tightly wound and such great pacing, and it breaks some conventions, breaks some tropes. So, spoiler alert, of course, for people, as Anthony explained earlier, but
I have not seen it, so this will be spoiling it, but that's okay.
I have selective memory, but they originally, main character, the Maximus, was supposed to win, survive in the end. And this is the strangest part, is that the movie should not have worked based upon how much rewriting was going on. So they actually just kind of hired a guy to just rewrite the movie while they were shooting it. And he just traveled around with them to these different countries, wherever they were shooting, just making these rewrites as they were making it. And then I think it was Russell Crowe that told Ridley Scott, the director, I don't think my character should survive in the end. And it was a lot more poignant that way. And it kind of, became less conventional, less stereotypical that way. And it was really poetic because, what did the character have to live for? And I think that was one of the questions that they were wrestling with when they were trying to decide that, was, what exactly does he have to live for? That's not exactly the big victory. My family's been murdered and now I survive. Now I live on. Okay. So that really throws a plot twist in there when his attempt at retaking Rome and retaking everything doesn't work out, because you're kind of expecting it to, because that's kind of how every movie would have played out. But
yeah,
it's just crazy that it actually did work out so well as a movie, despite the fact that they were constantly changing it on the fly.
Not stressful at all.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably going to sound stupid for saying this, and people are probably going to yell at me while listening to this. Is this the one where he says, "Are you not entertained?"
Yeah, it is this. Yes. It is this one.
But this is not the movie where he says, "This is Sparta."
Yeah.
No,
that's 300.
Is that Russell Crowe? Or is that Gerard Butler?
That is Butler. I believe that is Gerard Butler. Yeah. They've got the same kind of hair, same goatee and everything. So they really kind of do.
In that movie, at least specifically, they look very similar.
I met a guy at a gym once who my brother introduced me to him because he some kind of screenwriter or something. He'd been in some old movie with Rainn Wilson, or K.A. Dwight Schrute. But he mentioned that his friend actually wrote the script to 300. So that was a really random, interesting fact.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I have not seen either of these films.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. They're just not on my radar at the moment. I'll eventually, I know I need to see them, as a person who has a film podcast.
Yeah. So someone needs to suggest 300 for the next.
Please don't. I don't really want to watch that. There's just not, it's nothing wrong with the films. They're just not a film that catches my attention or my eye. But it could surprise me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, Noah, for your suggestion. And you said 4.5 to a 5?
Yeah, somewhere in there. It's quite a film.
Yeah. Pretty high ratings overall.
It's one of those films that you walk out and you're just man, if I had like a film studio, I'd be tempted to call it like Stagger Productions or Stagger Films or something, because that's the experience that I live for, is coming out of the theater and just staggering out like, what did I just see? And really,
Honestly, that's how I felt with Talk to Me. That was a good one. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised going into it because I'm a huge horror movie fan, but it takes a lot for me to think a horror movie is good, if that makes sense. Like about 90% of horror movies are pretty bad. Let's be
It's very high
honest.
standards.
I like it. I like a psychological thriller, and this is definitely that. It's very good.
there's been obviously a number that make me just kind of stagger out of the viewing experience, but never forget Jojo Rabbit.
Oh,
man,
good. So good.
I was not prepared for what that would do to me. That was every of the feels. That was insanely hilarious and also devastating. Just, man, he wraps it up like it's supposed to be some kind of mindless comedy, and then suddenly just like absolutely wrecked. And I couldn't even like. I went to work after that, and I usually listen to podcasts.
This is not what I wanted.
I'm usually listening to like a podcast or music or something. I couldn't listen to anything. It just felt like I can't handle anything right now, and I'm not okay.
A changed man.
That was something. I think Gladiator falls under that, where it's just you go on quite an epic journey, and he just plays all his cards right.
I'll have to see it for myself, I guess, and see how I feel afterwards. Put a little heart monitor on or something. I don't know. All right. Well, thank you for that one. Now, I guess last is my film that was also suggested by Noah L. He is on a roll with these film suggestions. But this is a movie actually that I've been wanting to watch for quite some time. It was on my list. I just never got around to it. So my film is Wind River, which stars Elizabeth Olsen,
your wife,
who's my wife, and also Jeremy Renner. And I didn't know John Bernthal was in it, so that was a pleasant surprise. But it's, for those who have never seen it or want a quick little synopsis, it's basically just about, it's based off a true story, first off, which made it, I would say 10 times better, but it's also hits a lot harder in a bad way because it's like, oh man, this is a true story. This is sad. But it's about an FBI agent that teams up with the town's veteran game tracker, which really does not sound like a true story, but it is. And they investigate a murder that occurred on a Native American reservation. So it's pretty dark. It's pretty disturbing overall story. I don't want to get too much into like the details on what happens. Needless to say, it is not for the weak.
Faint of heart.
Faint of heart. That's the word. Thank you. The weak is what I say. Just insult them. Not for the faint of heart. That sounds a lot better. So first off, little statistic here. It had an $11 million budget and it made over $45 million in the box office. So good for them.
Nice.
It's a pretty low budget overall compared to, most films nowadays. And when I was watching it, I kind of got, I don't know if either of you guys have seen Sicario.
I haven't.
I did. Amazing. I've only
seen just
so good.
And stuff.
That also needs to be on your list.
That is
good.
Oh
movie.
my God. Johan Johansson's like one of his best soundtracks. Dennis Villeneuve's like one of his greatest movies.
Emily Blunt. One of the best characters.
Benicio del Toro. Oh my God, this is great.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. But watching this kind of gave me very similar vibes. And I know why, because it's by the same director, which I found out at the end. And I was like, oh, well, that's why I freaking felt like similar style overall. And like, just the way the story was executed. It was directed by Taylor Sheridan, which he also did Yellowstone, the TV show, which is popping off right now. So just had to throw that out there. He is on a streak right now with movies and shows, it seems.
Taylor wrote Sicario and Wind River.
Yes,
He
that's
didn't direct them.
no. He did. Mine's
Taylor
when I
Sheridan.
googled it. It said he directed it.
He directed Wind River. He didn't direct Sicario.
Oh yeah, no, he wrote Sicario. Sorry, you're correct. I just wrote that I literally wrote down that he wrote Sicario, and I just decided to skip that part and just said he directed it. So my apologies. My notes were correct, but my brain was not. So obviously, there's some hard to watch scenes throughout the film, but it just makes it that much more real, and it has a very strong message throughout the whole thing. Saying that how kind of portraying basically that Native Americans aren't really treated equally as to Americans in general. And they're kind of overseen a lot in a lot of criminal cases and stuff like that. So the message overall is like, don't fucking do that. But I think my only like gripe with this film actually is very. I don't know if this actually happened in real life in the actual case. If it did, then that's a fucking miracle. But the main character, or one of the main characters, Elizabeth Olsen in the movie, spoiler alerts, gets shot with a shotgun at point blank range and survives. Granted, she had a bulletproof vest on, but if there's anyone listening that knows a single thing about shotguns, is they have a crazy spread. And I'm just amazed that that's the only wound she got from that shot. And that she was just like, A-okay. That was the only issue I had. I was like, how in the hell did you survive that? And like, she, not only did she survive it, but like, obviously you get the wind knocked out of you if you get shot at that range in bulletproof vest. But she manages to defend herself from a bunch of people shooting at her and stuff while she's like recovering from just getting shot. It's crazy. It's a crazy scene. It's just like a little out there. But again, if that actually happened in the real case, then she's a badass girl.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, I gave it a 4 out of 5. Another high rated movie from the three of us. I think it was a solid film. It was good. It's pretty short. I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 50, something like that. So, right, perfect amount for my attention span. And the movie came out in like 2017, so it's fairly newish. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch in a non-Marvel movie is crazy. And they kind of have chemistry, like there's a little tension, like a romantic tension. It's weird, but they make it work. So it's also a little nerve-wracking to see Jeremy Renner riding on snowmobiles after knowing that he had that accident.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh God, this makes me so nervous, even though I know nothing happens, but still. But yeah, thank you, Noah, for the suggestion. It was a good watch. I enjoyed it. Do you guys have anything else you want to add before I wrap up today's episode?
Write down your experiences. Experience is the best thing to write about. You got some crazy stuff, write about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've got some crazy ones from my days at when I used to work at Tijuana Flats, but I can't share too many of those, nor the location, because might get shut down with the stuff I would share.
Well, you don't work there anymore, so it's not your problem.
Yeah, you know what? What do I gotta lose? True.
I might add, just like both those films, yours and Isaiah's, just kind of remind me of what can be done with movies in terms of telling a story, but also just kind of shedding light on some interesting issues, because that really is an interesting issue that keeps on coming up in the news, is the disappearance of Native American women. And it's very interesting, and it's one of those things, like, I don't have any idea how this can be solved, but this is really crazy that it's going on.
Or at least making people aware of it, that's the least you can do sometimes.
Yeah. First step, at least. Yeah. And the other film, just the foster system and awareness on that end where, most movies kind of fall into some kind of Disney cliche of, down and out kid who's trying to get into a home before he's 13 or what have you, and then goes on a magical adventure somewhere. And, those are fun, but it's also, there's room for getting real light on it. Reminds me of why I liked Hunt for the Wilder People so much by Taika Waititi. Because, again, I mean, it's a lighthearted comedy, so it's not meant to be a really deep, profound film, but then he kind of subverts expectations a little bit with it not just being a really light comedy that doesn't, just fluff. Because one of the main themes there is a foster system, and that's, one of the main characters, the kid, is kind of starts talking about his experiences in it, and so it gets a little deep for being a comedy, and so he kind of makes it more than just a few laughs. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you can say the same too about Jojo Rabbit, like we were just talking about. It's like you kind of go into it thinking like, oh, it's a funny story about a kid who has an imaginary friend that happens to be like Hitler. Like that's a funny concept, and then it's just like out of nowhere, just hits you right in the face, and you're like, okay, well, wasn't expecting that one.
I think he calls it, his description of what he likes to do is comedy, but then like hiding the medicine in the good food, in the ice cream. It's wrapped up in candy, but then there's actually medicine for you.
Yeah, like a dark comedy kind of. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Well, on that note, thank you to all of our awesome listeners who submitted their movie suggestions, Caleb and Noah ×2. Sorry if we didn't get to yours today, but don't worry, we will soon. We have a lot to go through, so we'll slowly but surely get through them. Like we mentioned earlier, Whiplash is on there. That'll definitely be watched by one of us because I love that movie. And spoilers, I love that movie. Guess I won't be rating it. So anyways, if you have any other suggestions you'd like us to watch or for our listeners episode, then you can send them to silverscreensips@gmail.com. And now, of course, the results are in from our latest poll for the next season. What is it? Season 13 now? That's crazy. So the two options were the Oceans franchise and the Rocky franchise. And you guys picked Rocky. So yay. I've been trying to put this one off for a while, but it was going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah, Caleb is doing the run up the Philadelphia Art Museum steps right now.
Yeah. But thank you everyone who voted, and thank you, Hayden, for being here with us today. Yep.
Hey, it was a lot of fun. I always enjoy talking movies.
Well,
so we do
what better way to do it than here. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week in season 13 with Rocky 1. Is that what it's called? Just Rocky? Just Rocky.
Rocky.
Oh boy. This is a rocky ending.